my idea, which at the time was called Spring Masters, it was a spring only company. And I took it to Toronto, and in a 90-day from nothing generated over $1 million. So that was the whole idea behind Millionaire in 90 days. And while I did that, I worked out in the gym every day. So that's where I kind of came up with the term, but the mentality behind it is just utilizing your time productively.
Okay, so I'm proud to introduce Ben Stewart. He's an elite athlete, a coach, an entrepreneur, and an author. So the topic I'd like to speak to today is mentorship, being a mentor and becoming a mentor. So Ben, maybe you can tell us about your first business, how you got into entrepreneurship, and how that kind of fits into the mentorship.
Sure. Well, I mean, as a child growing up, I came from a family. My dad was in the government. My mom worked from home. And so there wasn't really any entrepreneurship in my family. But from a very young age, from a single income family with 4 kids and being the youngest, there wasn't a lot of money going around. And I remember, I always had interest in organizing people and organizing tournaments and sports and stats. And I know my dad, when I was 13 years old, I was asking for back to school clothes, like I'm sure a lot of kids do in August. And he's like, well, you're 13, you're a man now. You can have any clothes you want if you're willing to go work for it. And, at the time it kind of sucked because I'm heading into grade 8 and grade 9 with some hand-me-downs. But in the end, that life lesson was, hey, if you're willing to work, you can have what you want. And so I grew up cutting grass, selling snow removal door to door, like you name it, as a young kid, even before I was a teenager. And I'm sure like a lot of kids, cutting grass during the summer was something that a lot of kids did when they were 11, 12, 13 years old. So around 16 or 17, I decided I was going to be an entrepreneur and I was going to run businesses and I wasn't going to have a job. And my passion at that time was actually martial arts. So my goal was to someday own a karate school. And that was when I was 16 or 17. The problem was I was only an orange belt. And so that wasn't really feasible. And I was 16 years old. So I decided that I would learn entrepreneurship by starting a lawn care business. And I started lawn care, Ultimate Lawns, when I was 16 in grade 11 at Earl of March. And little did I know that at that time that company would grow to a point enabling me to acquire my instructor's karate school when I got out of college, but also eventually overtake what I was doing in the martial arts industry. And I still run that company to this day. So 25 years in business and literally it's the same company that entire time.
And I love the Ultimate Lawn being my company's ultimate IT courses.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, Ultimate Lawns. My first flyer, I drew by hand a little pine tree in the upper foyer at Earl of March when I was 16 years old. So yeah, cool. Good take.
Awesome. Yeah, my first business was student paint company. So sort of the same idea. It was a franchise approach, but ran a company when I was 18. And what I say to people is it was the best, worst experience of my life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got to put your time in and when you're young and you have that energy, there's nothing more important as an entrepreneur than learning how to present yourself, learning how to communicate, and learning how to sell the product or service. And, so the student painting, Ultimate Lawns, lawn care, direct sales, these are extremely vital skills that you're not going to learn in school. And really the best way to learn it is out in the field and making it happen. So that was really what I learned early on as an entrepreneur. And it's served me all these years.
That's awesome. So now it's your business is Canadian Property Stars. So that's
correct.
Become.
Yes.
It's a lot of aeration with that business. That's the big part of it, as well as lawn care. And you've written a book, so Millionaire in 90 Days Working Out at the Gym. That's tongue twister.
Yes, it is.
About that?
I probably should have talked to like a real publishing house or editor before I came up with that name. But no, I self-published that book in 2007. And, the concept behind it is I have a belief system that if you utilize your time effectively, you can not only accomplish building a big business, you can have a family and take care of them, and you could even enjoy and perform at the highest level in a chosen sport. And, you know, you see so many times there's entrepreneurs out there, but they appear to be on their last day, or they're going to have a heart attack tomorrow, or the stress level is super high. And then at the same time, you see athletes who, unless they're on a mainstream sport with sponsorship or a high income with a pro sport, they're usually like starving students trying to do their passion. And I believe that you can be successful in all areas of your life if you focus on your time and being effective within your time. So that's what that book's about, is health, wealth, and lifestyle, and how to maximize your time. And the reason I titled it what I did was I wrote that book in June of 2007. And in the previous 90 days, I had taken my idea, which at the time was called Spring Masters. It was a spring only company. And I took it to Toronto with no customers, no staff, no warehouse, no brand, nothing. And in a 90-day window, from nothing, generated over $1 million. So that was the whole idea behind Millionaire in 90 Days. And while I did that, I worked out in the gym every day. So that's where I kind of came up with the term, but the mentality behind it is just utilizing your time productively.
That's great. That's awesome. So keeping mentoring in mind, can you tell me if you had a mentor who influenced you in your martial arts career or your career?
Yeah, of course. And I mean, obviously you've been exposed to Mr. Anderson as well. But when I was 17 years old, I was a kind of BC level student. I was really busy, started my lawn care business, and I was a baseball player actually. Martial arts was my passion, but I wasn't doing it. And I remember walking down Hazeldean Road in the start of the school year, and I see Steve Anderson Karate on this banner in Canada. And I'm like, is that the Steve Anderson from the States? And I remember seeing this. I'm like, because as a child, I followed sport karate, and it was actually pretty big. It'd be on ESPN and things like this. And I remember this nasty Anderson guy that like killed everybody. So October 15th, 1995, I literally just walked upstairs into the studio, and here's this legend from the magazines right there in the training room with Marco, his top fighter at the time. And I walked in and I said, you're actually here. And he said, yeah, blood, I'm here. What's up? And I'm like, I want to get my black belt with you. And he's like, nah, you'll quit. And I'm like, no, trust me. I want to be a world champion. And I signed up for black belt membership. I was 17 years old. I just walked in, I signed up for a black belt membership, went home and had to ask my dad for like a credit card to put onto the file or whatever. And the rest is history. So yeah, Steve Nasty Anderson, although he taught me kicks and punches, really as a mentor, he taught me a winning mindset and belief in oneself before others believe in you. And as a mentor to me, in terms of a success mentor, there couldn't have been anyone better at that time in my life. Within a year, I was a straight A student, even though I was working 100 hours a week. And the success principles that he bestowed on me. I mean, I was always pretty good at karate, but he changed my brain and enabled me to become the world champion and success in business as well.
Yeah, I mean, excuse me, Steve is a world champion as well. And I mean, it's got to really help to have somebody who's already, done it, bringing someone to that level. And I think he was really amazing at working with elite athletes.
Correct.
Average athletes like myself as well. I didn't quite make it to the level that you made. I always say I'm still the before pitcher, athletics. So, but anyway, I was in a lot better shape back when I was doing karate than I am today. So.
For sure. Well, it's a lifelong art, and although my life has changed dramatically over the last 10 or 15 years, it's nice to come into that training room, even if it's only a couple months a year, and throw down with the kids and having that lifelong martial arts journey you can apply to your life and bestow to your kids and the people around you as well.
Yeah. Again, my kids as well. And I did karate when I was younger as well. And it does create a lot of confidence. And I think it's really helped me be the person I am today as well. So
awesome.
Karate is awesome for people. I guess the next question is, can you tell me about becoming a mentor yourself? Because I'm sure that you have a lot of experience mentoring other people and passing that on.
Well, yeah, I mean, my obviously as a martial artist and a professional martial artist, I ran multiple schools here in Ottawa. I was the captain, first the captain of the national team for the WKA, and eventually the president of the organization as well. And as part of that, you get the opportunity to coach fighters from around the world, from your country around the world, but also for me, although I was a good competitor as myself in the ring, I always felt that I was a much better coach. And I really do my best to understand it might not be what I would do, but more how can I work with the tools and the current tools that my client has, or in this case, my student has, or this fighter has, to strategize and better position them for success. So I kind of always looked at martial arts like a business, and how if I was a business owner, would I strategize to win this fight? And then the same thing applied with, as a martial artist, how can I apply those principles to business? So I trained 26 students in a 5-year window to become from white belt to world champion, 26 different students between 2002 and 2005. And as my lawn care business, which again, I started it under the premise that I would just do this until I owned a karate school, but the lawn care business, as we turned the business from a traditional lawn care business into an actual direct sales business and focused on a couple niche services, my coaching there, that's where I've coached now tens of thousands of youth and adults in the game of direct sales. And so it's interesting, as a martial arts instructor, it was all about teaching and coaching and mentoring, but I've actually coached and mentored more sales guys than I ever did in the martial arts industry. And a lot of the same principles exist. Putting the time in, putting the training in, putting the study and the education, same thing with martial arts, you apply that to the sales game, and then giving them the path and the belief to be successful. So I've now kind of transitioned from there, and now I'm working with entrepreneurs. So in the same capacity, kind of as a part-time passion business, I'm now working with entrepreneurs to help them strategize their businesses to be more successful as well.
That's excellent. I'll provide some links to some of Ben's sites as well. And again, from the mentorship piece of it, I mean, when I was working out at your club, I worked a lot with the black belts that you brought up. And I thought it was brilliant when you were doing your Sprig Master business that you peppered with black belts. So you're doing these tours around cities, but you had a whole bunch of black belts, and like, who could be better from a physical perspective and a mental perspective for starting and running a business?
Yeah, a lot of our, when you'd mentioned that to me, and I'm like, I did. I couldn't remember that. And I started thinking about like, oh yeah, I had Jason Dupuy, I had these. So yeah, crossing over back and forth. And the funny thing is, I actually used, at one point, you might not realize this, but when you were training there with your family, Yusuf Saab was working the front desk. James McLeod was working the front desk. And these were guys from Toronto that were sales managers in my company, and they were looking to have a promotion to move up to a general manager status. And I said, I want you to come and work with my mentor, Steve Anderson. So you actually saw this random guy at the front desk. He was a direct sales guy from a completely unrelated industry, but I like to cross blend because I really believe that the martial arts and the foundations you can learn in the studio can really apply greatly in other areas of your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I see it now. I've known you for 15 years, and we just went to an event, Steve Anderson event, and just all the black belts that came through, they're successful. And obviously they really appreciate you because they're still involved and keep involved with you. So yeah, mentorship, it really makes a difference.
100%.
Yeah. So I guess, as they say, just mentorship makes a difference. So everybody, who becomes successful, I think you need a mentor in order to get there. And I think once you have been mentored, you need to pass it forward to somebody else so that you can be a mentor for them. But that's pretty much all I had, Ben.
Well, I think I'd like to just touch on the mentor end of it. I mean, A lot of young people, if they're seeing this video, I'm not sure where this is going to be placed, whether it be on social mediums or other. A lot of young people, if you're 20 years old or 22 years old, you know, when I was that age, they say that, you know, your success is the sum total of the 5 people you hang around the most, and your bank account's the sum total of the 5 people you hang around the most. And, you know, when I was 20 or 22 years old, my buddies were all in university or in college, and, you know, on the weekends they're going out to the bars and partying and things like this, whereas I was trying to build businesses. And I had Mr. Anderson as a mentor to keep me focused in that area. But when you think about learning, I mean, if I were to turn this camera around, you'd see a library of business books. And, you know, from 16 to about 24, I read about 1,000 business books. And whether it be sales, persuasion, psychology, real estate investing, you name it. And this is stuff you're not going to get in the traditional school system. At that time, it wasn't on your iPod and you literally could just listen to, you know, iTunes. You can pretty much listen to anything you want nowadays. They make it so much easier to learn now than they did when we came up, where we actually had to read books. But my mentors beyond Mr. Anderson were people like Brian Tracy, Robert Allen, Robert Kiyosaki, Napoleon Hill. These are guys that lived in the 1930s, but they were books, they were authors, and I actually saw them as my mentors because they were providing me the information and the foundation. So even when you feel you don't have that mentor in place, you're a book away from a mentor. And you know, that would be my advice to any young guy out there is just because you're 20, just because you're 22 years old, doesn't mean you need to go with the flow with what's expected for the average 22-year-old, because when you're young, you have a great opportunity because you don't have a lot of risk yet. And I'd recommend anyone looking at entrepreneurship to, you know, obviously being able to find a mentor that can help you through that path is ideal. But if you don't, you're a book away. There's no excuse. You can pick up a book and you can be inspired by something you're reading or listening to, as opposed to someone you're speaking to. So that would be my tip to anyone young coming out.
That's awesome. And I agree 100%. I mean, kids have so much access to information now.
That's crazy.
And again, I would hope that they would use it. I don't think they use it to its full potential, but things in school that you can get, you know, on your iPod or on YouTube. So yeah, use that information and videos like this. So
yes, sir.
We'll have some young people looking at this and get inspired and become entrepreneurs and successful athletes, all those things. But
awesome.
It was a real pleasure. Thanks very much, Ben, for coming out and doing this with me. And we'll see you on your next big thing.
Something. All right. Thanks so much for having me on, Rick, and we'll talk to you soon.